We're all built differently. We all have different upper arm lengths, forearm lengths, hand size, and the ratios of all these are different. So the way that you're going to move on the table is going to be different than basically anyone else. So you just have to make those little adaptations in order to get the most out of your arm wrestling progression and to keep moving up the ranks. All right. Hey, everyone. I just wanted to come on and make a video today talking specifically about back pressure. I've learned a lot over the years, and unfortunately, one of the things that I came to the conclusion of is that I was training it incorrectly for the most part. And now I'll explain. I think that the way you train back pressure is obviously dictated a lot by your style of arm wrestling, whether you are an inside puller or an outside puller. You shouldn't be training back pressure the same. Now, there is something to being well-rounded and making sure you're training all your different vectors of arm wrestling, and I won't argue against that, but I think you should put a lot of emphasis into your main lane of arm wrestling. And now I am an inside puller, and as such, I think that most people are training arm wrestling wrong, or rather, I should say, are training back pressure wrong. Now, before we get into the nitty gritty of everything, if you like this type of content and you want to see more of this type of videos coming out in the future, please like and let me know down below so that way I know where to put my efforts and make sure I'm putting out the type of stuff that you guys want to see. And with that out of the way, let's get right into it. So, like most of you, when I first got into arm wrestling, the most popular way I saw of training back pressure is probably the way that you train it and the way that I put most of my efforts into training it my first year. That's where you take a loop, it could be a towel or a karate belt, just whatever, some kind of strap. You put it over the center of your hand and you basically just rock back. Now, I think, this is a great way of testing your maximal back pressure capability. But in terms of how much carryover it has, even if you are a top roller, I think it's a little bit questionable. Does it have carryover? Yes. But is it the most accurate way to train your back pressure? I don't think so. So before we get into the hooking, I do want to focus on the top roll because I think that it is the most common way that we see back pressure done. So how you can make this better and more accurate and have more carryover to your table performance is simply, instead of treating the loop normal, just string it through your pulley like so. So now you have these two sections here. And then what we're going to do from here is simply, now this first variation, I'm going to show you two variations. This first one is going to be out of the strap variation. So like if you want to get to your slip so you can get to the strap, or if you're the type of person who prefers to arm wrestle out of the strap, then this is going to be a little bit more useful. You take the first one like normal, the first loop right through your hand, and the second loop is going to go through, and now you can customize this a little bit, but you can either do it directly over your knuckles, which is how I like to do it, or I should say across the top or the flat of your hand, or you could put it over your knuckle. If you put it over your knuckle, it's a little bit more pronation challenging. If you put it over the flat of your hand, then it's going to be a little bit more rise challenging. And now this method is much better because it's going to give you more accurate pressures to where you're going to feel someone's hand on your hand. And basically it works exactly the same. You just tense up and you go back. Exactly the same. All you're doing is changing the strap. Now, to make this variation more specific to training in the strap, you just take that first loop and try to put it in the same spot that you like to have the strap applied to you. And then you move that one also down across the back of your hand. So that way it's simulating pulling through the strap. And again, super simple, just pulling back with it. Pulling back. Now, you want to make sure that you're trying to get the pressures right. You should have most of the pressure through here like you would, because this is where you want to pull through in the strap. But you still want to have a good amount of pressure up here, so you'll have to play with how much tension comes through. Normally, if you're keeping all your fundamentals correct and you're approaching the table, and you're getting into your position, it's going to kind of work itself into the right position. But again, this is just where you're going to want to be. So it's super simple. It will make a huge difference in terms of actually being able to carry over to how you perform on the table, because it's going to feel much, much, much more natural than only getting pressure through this point. So highly recommend it. Whether you're, a hook puller or a top roller, it's going to do wonders. Now for hook arm wrestlers, I think hook is a much different beast in terms of how we generate back pressure as compared to top roll. The goals are different. We're not going outside, we're going inside. So the variation changes quite a bit. And let me show you. So the height of the pulley, in my opinion, if you're training as a hook arm wrestler, should be like mid-level or just a little bit higher. You can even do it higher up if you're really focusing on trying to challenge the fingers. But when I'm training specifically back pressure, I think it's a little bit better to have it just slightly above center. So that way you're still having to challenge the hand, which is important because, with outside arm wrestling, the goal is to really not be holding on at all. Like you really shouldn't be clamping or putting a lot of fingertip pressure in there. But with inside pulling, with hooking, a lot of times like you have to grab on somewhat, like, you're going to be pulling back. So outside arm wrestling, we're coming out here. Inside arm wrestling, we're coming here. So the back pressure is coming through this. So again, there's more advanced ways of doing this. And there's a lot of great channels that are showing things like, Sandris Setis, his channel is great. He shows lots of exercises. Bogdan, his channel is amazing. He's been showing a lot of really great, more advanced applications, like using, playing. Same thing with Todd Hutchings. But this is basically give you the idea of the direction that you want to be going. So basically, with inside arm wrestling, the goal is to get that wrist contact. So again, having the strap down, kind of like where you want to have the strap or the loop, I should say, and then the other portion into your hand. And then you're going to get into your starting position. And then you're just dragging back this way, dragging back this way, dragging back this way, just like you would if you were hooking. And the same thing, if you're not a drag hook and you just like to go straight sideways, then you're just going to do the same thing. Now, a lot of people see this as side pressure, but when you're an inside puller, this is also how you generate your back pressure. You can't really necessarily train them independently, nor do I think you should, because it kind of has to be one fluid movement. And it's really this lock and keeping that hook in, and you're dragging your back pressure is coming through your hand, through the hook. And ideally you get that wrist contact. So the back pressure is coming into your wrist. And a lot of the back pressure too is just resisting your opponent's top roll and keeping him from opening your arm. So that way, again, coming through here, back, just like you would in a hook. So that should make perfect sense because again, is it gonna have some carryover to hook? Like, is it gonna help you to learn to keep your arm closed? Yeah, to some degree. But you also have to remember arm wrestling is a sport. So it's important to train your body to learn the patterns that you want it to move in, just like you would in football or basketball or whatever sport that you've participated in the past. You need to train movement patterns. So getting yourself outside of those movement patterns trains your body to try to get to positions that it won't ever get to on the table, which is why you might be having some issues. And one of the things I think is really important, I really want to show this exercise because I think a lot of people completely neglect their pronation in the hook. And so if you're having troubles with like finishing off certain opponents, it could be because you're not keeping your pronation engaged. So this exercise is going to help you to hook, generate the back pressure, but also at the same time keeping your pronation engaged, which is important to one, not getting your hand turned over, but it's much easier and you have much more options when your pronation is intact. There are, like, you see people who arm wrestle like this, but I think you're going to hit a level to where that's just not going to work. So all you do is you take the strap, you put it over the top of your forearm here, lay it over the top, wrap around, get it into your palm. Again, try to have this where you like to have the strap, but ideally, as long as it's just past the wrist bone, it's fine, because what you're trying to do here is this is going to try to pull open your pronation, and you're just doing literally the same thing, getting into your start position, and then you're just practicing that first motion. Again, whether you're a drag hooker like me, or if you're wanting to come more straight into side pressure, but either way, This is going to be trying to open your arm and your pronation. So it's a really good exercise to progress both offensively and defensively as an inside puller. And I really recommend it. I do recommend having some kind of thick, fluffy towel or something around, because when you start getting to heavier weights with this movement, it can get a little bit painful. So having a towel on your arm when you put this over it can definitely help. Also, it is going to make it more challenging, just to let you know. So if you notice that once you wrap your arm with a towel and then do this exercise, if you notice your numbers go down, that's normal. You know, it's, I'm not a, math person or science person or whatever, but just having that extra circumference or diameter, it just makes it more difficult. Just like how you see a lot of times, like a lot of top rollers, when they train pronation, they'll put a towel or a rag or something over the top of their hand and then put the strap over it. Just again, this makes it much more difficult. It moves the center of gravity further away from, again, I'm not sure of the exact terms, but the point that you're trying to turn over. So it just makes it more difficult. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, that's basically it for this video. I really do think that as you progress through past your beginner phase, like that first 6 to 10 months of arm wrestling, you have to start making your training a little bit more specific to what you're doing on the table to continue seeing those same results. If you keep doing the same things, if you keep doing the same super basic workouts that are just, a lot of the big channels put out there, because they will have general effect for everybody, but you really need to start keying down your style of arm wrestling and finding the movements that feel like how you arm wrestle, so that way you can progress your style. Because just because what you do doesn't look exactly like what your favorite arm wrestler does, or the person who pulls most similar, if it's not exactly the same, that's okay. We're all built differently. We all have different upper arm lengths, forearm lengths, hand size, and the ratios of all these are different. So the way that you're going to move on the table is going to be different than basically anyone else. So you just have to make those little adaptations in order to get the most out of your arm wrestling progression and to keep moving up the ranks. So again, hope this video was helpful for some of you guys. If you like this, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing the video, and I will catch you guys next time.